What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to Late Tubes. Today's video, we're going to be ranking the top 10 coaches in the NBA right now. Just a disclaimer, I left Greg Popovich off this list because while he could easily be number one on this list, the Spurs have been in a rebuild for the last few years, and it doesn't feel right to rate him as this list is based on current standings of each coach and each team. Without further ado, let's get started with our honorable mentions, and then we'll dive straight into this list. So the honorable mentions I have today are Jamal Mosley, Mike Brown, Willie Green, Jason Kidd, and I guess you could throw Mike Budenholzer on there. All of them are great NBA coaches who have contracts for years to come. Unfortunately, they just did not make my top 10. Now at number 10, we have Will Hardy. Will Hardy's a great young head coach. He has lots of potential in this league, and he's proved that the Jazz can be competitive even without a star-studded roster. I'm really excited to see the future of him in this league. He plays great rotations, and having a great young head coach in this NBA is something that's so valuable because as the players grow and build, so does that chemistry with the head coach. I'm not going to spend too much time on the outside of the top 5. Will Hardy, shout out to you. Number 9, Nick Nurse. I would generally have Nick Nurse a lot higher on this list because when it comes to the X's and O's of basketball, Nick has a brilliant mind for the game, and he has a lot of professional experience of his own. However, the Raptors have been really bad this season, and he's still a great coach who's won an NBA championship. But as for right now, this season, the Raptors have a lot of work to do, and that's coming from someone who predicted them that they would be a top 6, top 5 seed in the NBA, so there's no bias here at all. Number 8, Steve Kerr. Coming off an NBA championship season, it's kind of hard for me to rank Steve Kerr this low, but at the end of the day, you guys got to realize that being the 8th best coach in the NBA is no slight, and it's no jab at all. I think you could easily switch him out with number 7 and vice versa, but right now, this is just where I have Kerr. He's always been a great coach, but he did have somewhat of a system set up for him from Mark Jackson's coaching days, and he's always had amazing players with amazing talent in his system. I'm not taking away from any of the success that he or the Golden State Warriors have seen throughout their dynasty over the last decade. This season, they have just dealt with a lot of injuries, including Steph right now just had a knee injury the other day, and he's going to be out for a couple of weeks. But as they have had a very rocky season, this is where he ranks. At number 7, I have Monty Williams. And like I said, Monty and Steve Kerr could be switched, but I think they're in a similar tier in similar spots. Before Booker and CP were injured this season and Cam Johnson was injured this season, the Suns, they were the 1 seed in the Western Conference. And even without their star talent, they sit as the 6th seed right now after lingering around the 10 seed for a couple weeks. Booker makes his return tonight, and Suns fans should be stoked. I think Monty is an excellent coach, and he's really good with his players both on and off the court. Another coach who's really good with his players is who we have at number 6, and that's Erik Spoelstra. Spo has been an amazing head coach for over a decade now. A lot of people forget to bring up his name when talking about the best coaches in the NBA. He really embodies Miami Heat culture as well, and that's pretty much what this entire organization is about, just having culture and having trust in your guys, and that's something that Spoelstra has been teaching for a very long time now. The Heat had a very rough start to the season, but now they've kind of ironed things out and sit as the 6th seed, and they will probably finish this year as a top 5 seed thanks to Spo and Jimmy Butler. Now here's where it gets really hard to decide, and I don't blame anyone if you have people switched and moved around, but this is my top 5. At number 5, we have the Cavs head coach, J.B. Bickerstaff. JB could rank a lot higher, but I think 5 is very generous for him. He has a very talented roster, but he has been a great coach for this lost Cavs team since 2020. Even before Darius necessarily broke out and they acquired Donovan Mitchell, he had been keeping this team somewhat competitive. I hear nothing but good things about the players when talking about JB and vice versa. He knows the X's and O's of the games a lot, and due to his long-term former player development coach experience, he really does know how to take care of his guys and treat them like humans and treat them with respect. The Cavs are the 4th seed right now in an ultra-competitive Eastern Conference, and the only teams above them everyone is saying are title contenders. Obviously, you have the Celtics, Sixers, and Bucks, and a lot of the brilliance and a lot of the success that has come from this team is rooted straight from J.B. Bickerstaff and people just buying into the system that he's presented them with. At number 4, we have Ty Lue. Tyronn Lue is always going to be an underrated head coach to me. He always finds a way to get the most out of his players, whether it's the 1st or 13th guy on the roster. and just capitalize on must-win games. The Clippers have been kind of the laughing stock of the NBA for a long time, but in my opinion, it's never really been Ty's fault. Most of those laughing stock moments come from the Doc Rivers era. Even when two of his stars are missing tons of games this season, the Clippers sit as the 4 seed in an electrifying, super competitive Western Conference. I'm really excited to watch this team come playoff times. I really hope they prove some people wrong, and I'm really just excited to see what kind of non-Doc Rivers style sets he can implement to help this team win games. Tyronn Lue, he's an amazing coach on the defensive side of the ball, and he has a lot of great talent on this team to carry that offensive side of the ball. Again, Ty Lue, you're amazing. You could switch out JB and Ty, but this is just where I have them. At number 3, a name that is crazy, and you could possibly even put him at the 2 spot. I have Joe Mazzulla. I have Joe here, and it's really just impressive what he's done this year. It's not often you can come in as an interim head coach and fill the shoes of such a talented head coach like Emeka Udoka, but he has really been nothing short of amazing this year. He was just voted in for the All-Star game to coach, and the players on the Celtics have really bought into what he preaches. They currently sit as the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they have been the number 1 seed about 95% of this season. I'm pretty sure the Bucks had it for a couple days. There's not really any bad things you can say about Joe. He is clearly strictly all business. If you guys have ever watched any post-game interviews ever been in, he kind of gives me Pop vibes, and if you're a Celtics fan, you should be electrified that this guy is your interim head coach. Like, he's going to be a head coach someday in this league. It's only a matter of time. Or, I mean, like, on a contract. Obviously, he's a head coach right now. But that's besides the point. Number 2, we have Taylor Jenkins. The Grizzlies are the 2 seed in the West right now, and they have been really trying to show this league the entire season that they're championship material. They've had a rough couple of weeks in the past 2 weeks, but Taylor Jenkins has been a great head coach as long as he's been a part of this franchise. He's an amazing players coach. He always knows how to keep his rotations fresh, and honestly, I have heard nothing but good things from the players all the way up to when they're talking about Taylor Jenkins. He's just a lovable guy, and he's another one of these young head coaches who is on the younger side of the pendulum. So the Grizzlies have their guy for probably the next 10 to 20 years as long as things stay great. But at number 1, if this came as a shock to you, it came as a shock to me as well. I didn't make this list thinking I'd have Michael Malone as the number 1 coach in the NBA this year. But to be fair, the record talks. He's the number 1 seed in the West, and convincingly too. The Nuggets are about to prove the Phil Jackson theory right, that if you win 40 games before 20 losses, you're a championship contender. The Nuggets, to me, look like most nights the best team in the NBA, and yes, a lot of that is Nikola Jokic, but the brilliance of Michael Malone shouldn't be overlooked. I think he'll probably win Coach of the Year this year, but only time will tell. The players love him, the staff loves him, and honestly, nights when he's missed a couple of games this year. I know it's not very normal for a head coach, but on nights when Michael isn't coaching, you can tell something's very off with this team. But anyways, guys, that's my list, the top 10 coaches in the NBA. You guys voted you wanted to see this video on the poll, so here it is. I'm going to be dropping the top 10 players in the NBA later this week because it was actually neck and neck. It was 50-50 for most of the day. But let me know in the comments what you guys think below. What would you switch around and what would you keep the same? As always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in these videos. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.